Imagine ruling a kingdom so vast that 1 out of every 5 people on Earth lived under your command. In the 5th century BC, the Persian Empire was the mightiest force the world had ever seen, stretching from the plains of modern-day Pakistan to the mountains of Macedonia. It was rich, sophisticated, and unstoppable, or so it seemed. But in 480 BC, the Persian king Xerxes set his sights on the small, divided city-states of Greece. He wanted revenge, glory, and total conquest. Instead, what he found was something he had never faced before: defiance. His campaign, meant to be a demonstration of Persian power, would end in disaster and leave behind stories that still inspire legends today. This, buddy, is where that story begins. Before Xerxes, there was his father, Darius the Great, ruler of an empire unlike any other. Persia's roads connected continents. Its wealth flowed from conquered lands, its cities glittered with gold, and its army seemed endless. But Persian power had a flaw: Greece. The Persians had already brought the Greek colonies of western Anatolia under their rule decades earlier. But in 499 BC, these colonies rebelled against Persian control. The uprising was crushed, but 2 Greek city-states had dared to support the rebels: Athens and Eretria. For Darius, this wasn't just rebellion, it was insult. No one defied the King of Kings and went unpunished. Darius moved quickly. He sent envoys to Greece demanding the traditional tokens of submission: earth and water. Many city-states submitted quietly, but Athens, a young democracy fiercely proud of its freedom, and Sparta, a militarized powerhouse that obeyed no one, responded in the most Greek way possible. They threw the Persian messengers into a well, telling them, "There, you'll find all the earth and water you need." The insult enraged Darius. In 490 BC, he launched his first invasion of mainland Greece. Eretria was burned to the ground. Then the Persians landed at Marathon, determined to crush Athens. But the Athenians, fighting alongside their small ally Plataea, launched a stunning attack. Outnumbered 2-1, the Greek hoplites charged with their heavy shields and long spears, smashing into the lighter Persian infantry. The Persians were slaughtered on the beach, forced to scramble back to their ships. Athens had been saved, but Darius was not finished. 4 years later, Darius died, leaving his son Xerxes to continue the mission. Unlike his father, Xerxes wanted not just revenge, but total domination of Greece. He summoned troops from every corner of his empire, gathering what Herodotus, the Greek historian, later exaggerated as 2.3 million soldiers. Modern historians estimate closer to 200,000 men, still massive for the time. To move such a force, Xerxes ordered an engineering marvel: a bridge of boats across the Hellespont, connecting Asia to Europe. When a storm destroyed the first bridge, Xerxes reportedly ordered the sea itself to be whipped as punishment, a show of Persian arrogance. By the spring of 480 BC, his army and fleet marched west. Greece seemed doomed. Greece, a land famous for city-states constantly at war with each other, did something extraordinary. 31 of these rival states formed an alliance, meeting at the Isthmus of Corinth to coordinate their defense. At the top of the list, Sparta, the military powerhouse; Athens, with its growing naval strength, and smaller but determined allies like Corinth and Aegina. The first Greek attempt to block Xerxes failed. A force of 10,000 men tried to hold the mountain pass at Tempe, near Mount Olympus, but the position could easily be outflanked. They withdrew, leaving the Persians free to march south. The Greeks then chose a new choke point: Thermopylae, the Hot Gates, a narrow pass where numbers mattered less. In August 480 BC, 7,000 Greeks, led by Spartan King Leonidas, took position at Thermopylae. The Persian army advanced, confident of crushing them. Meanwhile, at sea, the Greek fleet gathered at Artemisium to guard the coast. It was a fragile coalition. Athens provided the largest number of ships, but suspicion ran deep among the allies. Athens had only built its navy 3 years earlier, after the discovery of rich silver mines at Laurium. Themistocles, a visionary Athenian leader, convinced his people to spend the wealth on warships instead of cash handouts, a decision that may have saved all of Greece. The Greek fleet was commanded by a Spartan, Eurybiades, chosen to keep the alliance together, even though Spartans had almost no experience in naval warfare. Both sides relied on the same type of warship, the trireme. Fast, agile, and deadly, these ships used 3 banks of oars to reach speeds of 10 knots. Their main weapon was a bronze-sheathed ram on the bow, designed to smash holes into enemy hulls. Greek triremes were heavier, built for close combat, while Persian ships, especially the elite Phoenician fleet, were lighter and faster. Each ship carried marines, hoplites, and archers ready to board when needed. At sea, storms struck the Persian fleet near Magnesia, sinking hundreds of ships. The Greeks took it as a sign from the gods. But on land, the Persian army kept advancing. The stage was set for one of history's most famous last stands, this was just the beginning. In the next chapter, Leonidas and his Spartans face impossible odds at Thermopylae, the Greek navy clashes at Artemisium, and Xerxes' wrath sets Greece ablaze. If you're ready for the battle that changed Western history, hit like, share this, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Because Chapter 2 will bring the fire of Thermopylae to life. 7,000 Greeks. 200,000 Persians. One narrow mountain pass. In the summer of 480 BC, King Leonidas of Sparta and a small coalition of Greek warriors made a stand at Thermopylae that would echo through history. They weren't fighting for victory. They were fighting to delay the inevitable, to buy Greece just a little more time. And while they bled on the rocks of Thermopylae, far out at sea, Greek and Persian warships clashed in desperate naval battles. This is the chapter where heroes are forged, and where the fate of Greece begins to shift. Thermopylae, the hot gates, was a narrow pass wedged between steep mountains and the sea. It was the perfect place for a small force to hold back a larger one. The Greek alliance chose 7,000 men to defend it. Among them were 300 Spartans, handpicked by King Leonidas himself. These Spartans weren't ordinary soldiers. They were elite warriors, each chosen because they already had sons to carry on their family names. Leonidas knew this was a mission of no return. When Xerxes arrived, his army stretched as far as the eye could see. Herodotus claimed over 2 million men, but modern historians estimate around 200,000 troops. Still an overwhelming force. Yet, when Xerxes sent messengers demanding surrender, Leonidas gave his famous reply, "Come and take them." The Persian king expected the Greeks to scatter at the sight of his army. Instead, they stood waiting, shields locked, as if daring him to attack. The first waves of Persian infantry charged into the narrow pass, but the Greeks fought in tight phalanx formations, their long spears and heavy bronze shields overlapping to form an unbreakable wall. The Persian infantry, lighter armed and used to open-field combat, were slaughtered. Bodies piled up so high that Persian soldiers had to climb over their own dead. Xerxes grew furious. He sent in his elite warriors, the Immortals, a unit of 10,000 men famed for their skill. But even they were pushed back. The narrow pass meant only a few men could fight side by side, neutralizing Persian numbers. According to Herodotus, Xerxes watched the battle from his golden throne, shocked to see his best troops failing. The Greeks used clever tactics. When their spears broke, they fought with short swords. At times, they feigned retreat, drawing Persians into the pass before turning and cutting them down. Spartan discipline was unmatched. Herodotus tells us that between battles, Spartans calmly combed their long hair, a ritual that terrified their enemies, making them seem almost fearless. For 2 days, the Greeks held Thermopylae, killing thousands of Persians. But betrayal was coming. A Greek named Ephialtes revealed a secret mountain path to Xerxes, allowing Persian forces to outflank the defenders. When Leonidas learned they had been surrounded, he dismissed most of the Greek army, choosing to stay with his 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans. The final stand was brutal. The Greeks fought with broken spears, then with swords, then with their bare hands. Leonidas himself was killed, and the Spartans fought fiercely to recover his body. The Persians eventually overwhelmed them with arrows, blotting out the sun. Thermopylae was lost, but the delay had bought Greece precious time. Xerxes, enraged by the resistance, ordered Leonidas's body mutilated, a rare act for the Persians, who usually respected fallen enemies. While Thermopylae burned, the Greek fleet fought at Artemisium. The Persian fleet, still massive despite storm losses, outnumbered the Greeks almost 3-1, but the Greeks had heavier triremes and used the narrow coastal waters to their advantage. For 3 days, the two fleets clashed. Greek ships rammed Persian hulls, boarded enemy decks, and fought with hoplites in brutal close combat. Though the Greeks held their ground, news of Leonidas's death forced them to withdraw. They couldn't risk being cut off now that Thermopylae had fallen. The Persians advanced south, leaving fire in their wake. The Greek army retreated to the Isthmus of Corinth, building defensive walls to protect the Peloponnesian Peninsula. Athens, however, was left exposed. Themistocles, the Athenian leader, ordered a mass evacuation. Civilians were sent to nearby islands like Salamis, while the Athenian fleet prepared for one final stand. When Xerxes entered Athens, he found the city almost empty. Still, he burned it to the ground, temples, houses, and sanctuaries, avenging the Persian losses at Sardis years before. For Xerxes, this was vengeance. For the Greeks, it was a call to fight harder. The Athenians turned to the Oracle of Delphi for guidance. The prophecy spoke of a wooden wall that would save them. Some thought it meant defending the Acropolis. They were slaughtered when the Persians attacked. But Themistocles believed the wooden wall was their fleet. And in the next chapter, that fleet would change history forever. The Spartans had fallen. Athens was burning. Greece's hope rested on the sea. In Chapter 3, we sail to Salamis, where outnumbered Greek ships faced the full Persian navy in one of the greatest naval battles in history. If you're ready for the final clash that saved Greece, hit like, share this, and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this next chapter will decide the fate of Western civilization. Athens burned. The Spartans were dead at Thermopylae. The Persian army marched freely through Greece. For King Xerxes, victory seemed inevitable. His massive fleet, the largest the ancient world had ever seen, sailed south to finish the job. Greece's alliance was falling apart, many cities were already surrendering, but one man refused to give up. Themistocles of Athens had a plan, a desperate gamble that would decide the future of Greece in a single day. This is the story of Salamis, the naval battle that turned the tide of history. After Thermopylae, panic swept through Greece. The Peloponnesian allies focused on protecting their own lands, building a defensive wall across the Isthmus of Corinth. Athens, meanwhile, lay in ruins. Themistocles ordered the complete evacuation of the city. Women, children, and the elderly were shipped to nearby islands, Troezen, Aegina, and Salamis, under the protection of the Greek navy. The Greek fleet, about 370 triremes, gathered near Salamis, but unity was fragile. Many city-states wanted to retreat to Corinth and fight closer to home. Themistocles argued fiercely. "If we abandon Salamis," he warned, "the Persians will take the Peloponnesus next. We must fight here in the straits." The narrow waters of Salamis, he explained, would neutralize the Persians' advantage in numbers and favor the heavier Greek ships. But some leaders hesitated. So Themistocles resorted to trickery. Themistocles secretly sent a trusted messenger, possibly a slave named Sisinus, to the Persian camp with false information. The message claimed that the Greek fleet was panicking and planning to flee at dawn. If Xerxes struck quickly, he could trap them and win an easy victory. It was a dangerous gamble. If Xerxes believed the lie, he would sail into the straits exactly where Themistocles wanted him. Xerxes took the bait. On the night before the battle, the Persian fleet, around 600 warships, moved silently into position. They blocked the exits of the straits, cutting off any Greek escape. Xerxes himself set up a golden throne on a hillside overlooking the battlefield. He brought royal scribes to record the names of captains who fought bravely, and those who would be punished for cowardice. The Persians believed victory was guaranteed, but they were about to row straight into a trap. At dawn, the Greek fleet moved out from the shores of Salamis, forming a battle line. The Athenians held the left wing, the Aeginetans the right. Their crews sang paeans, war hymns, as they rowed, boosting morale. The Persian fleet surged forward, eager to crush what they thought were fleeing Greeks. But as more Persian ships crowded into the narrow waters, chaos began. Themistocles had predicted it perfectly. The Persian fleet, designed for open-sea combat, became trapped, with ships ramming each other. The Greek triremes, heavier and sturdier, smashed into Persian hulls with bronze rams. Greek marines boarded Persian decks, fighting hand-to-hand with spears and swords. Xerxes watched from his throne, at first confident, then furious as his fleet faltered. Greek rowers, rested and motivated, fought with precision. Persian oarsmen, exhausted from rowing all night to reach the straits, began to panic. Aeschylus, the Athenian playwright who fought at Salamis, later described the battle as a massacre. The sea was choked with wreckage, and men like fish, stabbed by spears. The Phoenician squadron, considered the elite of the Persian navy, suffered heavy losses. Many Persian ships tried to retreat, but collided with their own allies, making them easy targets. One of the most incredible moments came from Queen Artemisia of Halicarnassus, one of Xerxes' few female commanders. Pursued by a Greek trireme, she rammed and sank a friendly Persian ship to create confusion. The Greek captain, believing she was an ally, stopped chasing her. When Xerxes saw her sink what he thought was a Greek ship, he reportedly exclaimed, "My men have become women, and my women have become men." By midday, the Persian fleet was in full retreat, heading back toward Phaleron. The Greeks pursued, striking retreating ships from the side. On the small island of Citylea, Xerxes had stationed 400 Persian troops to kill shipwrecked Greeks. But after the battle, Aristides, an Athenian commander, landed with hoplites and slaughtered every Persian on the island. In total, Persia lost around 200 ships and 12,000 men, including senior commanders. The Greeks lost only 40 ships. Watching from his throne, Xerxes was stunned. His dream of conquering Greece had crumbled in a single morning. Fearing his fleet might be destroyed completely, he ordered a retreat. The defeat at Salamis changed everything. Xerxes, fearing his supply lines would be cut, returned to Asia with much of his army, leaving his general Mardonius to continue the campaign. But Mardonius, too, would fall. The following year, at Plataea, the Greeks defeated the Persian land forces, killing Mardonius and ending the invasion. On the same day, according to Herodotus, the Greek navy won another victory at Mycale, driving the Persians from the Aegean. The Persian threat was over. Greece had survived. The victory at Salamis is often called one of the most important battles in history. Without it, Persian rule might have crushed the independent Greek city-states, and the classical age of Athens, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, and Western art, might never have happened. The Persians had come with overwhelming numbers, but in the end, it wasn't numbers that mattered. It was courage, strategy, and the refusal to bow to a king who thought himself a god. Salamis was more than a battle. It was a statement. Freedom was worth dying for. If this final chapter gave you chills, hit like, share this story, and drop your thoughts in the comments. And for more tales of forgotten heroes and the wars that shaped our world, subscribe to HistoryMind, where history's greatest battles are never forgotten.